is a FreeBSD system running underneath VMware. It's running the FWNOP client. I have an Ubuntu Linux system that's running, that's on these two windows up here, that's running the FWNOP server. And jeez. Oh, hold on just a second. I don't think I'm going to be able to. Having trouble with the mouse here. Okay, just in the bottom window, what I've shown here is just that the IP tables is filtering my incoming connection attempt to port 22. Okay, so the input chain is not allowing the connection from the BSD system to the Ubuntu Linux system. So FWNOP is running over here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use FWNOP in NAT mode here to create a DNAT rule for a randomly assigned port over which SSH will be accepted from the FWNOP client system, the FreeBSD system. So as you can see down here, it's just assigned me a new port, so 41194. -l-mbr Isengard. And so now I can log in, hostname Isengard, which is my Ubuntu Linux system. And as you can see over in this window, these are the syslog messages output by the FWNOP server that you can see a DNAT rule for this particular 41194 TCP port to be natted locally to port 22 for 40 seconds. I'm also interfacing, of course, with the IP table state tracking mechanism to keep my connection open. And after 40 seconds, FWNOP-D has removed this input accept rule. So now any new connection that I attempt to make from the FreeBSD system will not be allowed. But as you can see here, my session is still open. That illustrates the advantage of using a stateful firewall for doing this kind of thing. So if I quit, if I exit out, and I just test whether or not I have access to port 22. Of course, I don't. And in this window, what do you see? So this is the SPA packet. As you can see, the destination port was randomized to this value. If I were to dive into this packet, you would see that those invariant sections are also stripped up. I don't think I have time to show that. And then you can see the follow-on connection, which is actually SSH, but it's going over TCP port 41194. So that's the demo. And any questions? Yes? Is the first packet UDP? Do you mean this one? Yes, that is UDP. I'm sorry, what? The SPA packet itself it's usually UDP by default, but you can use command line arguments to send. You can even send an SPA packet over an established TCP connection if you like. That's required to get it to work over Tor. But you can send it also over ICMP. It's not necessarily UDP. So, any other questions? Yes. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Have you audited any of the parsers that you're using?
His question is, have I audited any of the parsers that I'm using? That's a great question. So you're probably referring to NetPacket, for example, and the NetPCAP extension in Perl and that kind of thing. I've looked at them a little bit. Would I say that they're secure? I'd say probably not. I mean, I'd say that's an area where rewriting in C, I think, is important to make sure that things are really well tested. I think using Valgrind against this code is going to be really important, sort of not in the context of the OpenSSL problem. But anyway, that's a great question, and that is a chink in the armor. There's nothing to say that there is not a vulnerability in either libpcap itself or in the parsers that this code is using. The main application is to make the target identification phase of using InMap, make that piece hard as possible. there could be an exploit waiting to happen in the FWNOP server side by virtue of the fact that it uses Perl modules that are also have C code in the back end, et cetera. That's certainly possible. Yes. Any other questions? Yes. Any solutions to audit a virtual system for a single packet authorization? I'm not quite. Is that the question?
Any guess where you can't mess with the kernel and run the firewall?
Yeah. So there have been vulnerabilities in firewalls from time to time. You know, there are integration points that you could use within kernels that are running in a sort of virtual environment, just because you've got access to IP tables and IPFW and things, just like in running underneath VMware. But I probably need to take your question offline because I'm not quite sure I got it. But anyway, I think I'm running out of time. But thank you very much.